Hey everybody, welcome to the weekend vid, and we've got a lot to talk about, so sit back and enjoy. As always, we will start with the SPY, and it is still a 2-2 on the month, so be aware of that, but we've taken all the nearby pivots, so potentially we get some profit taking. We go to the week. Going into next week, we do have a little bit of a hammer, so you can draw right to left. This is your broadening formation to start off the year. If that reverses, that might be something we want to know about, because it would cause a reclaim of these guys, and maybe even these guys before even hitting magnitude. So you'd reclaim a lot of stuff if that goes in force. If we go to the Qs, you're going to see similar, right? It's a month 3-2 down, so it's a broadening formation. You'll see the slight higher highs, the lower lows, and notice we've taken out all the nearby pivots, so we're nowhere near taking these guys out. If this weekly hammer were to go in force, we'd reclaim these guys and these guys. So that'd be something we want to know about above last week's highs. The Dow Jones, also, you're going to see makes the lower low. Oops. Not quite a hammer, but again, closer to inside week, which would firm things up at least a little bit to start off the week. And you got the lower lows in here. So again, potentially we get a change in continuity on the week. We start trying to reclaim some of these guys. So we'll be aware of that. We got an IDBM. You're also going to see the hammer. So this is one of the weaker ones, right? Probably not one I'm going to buy off of this, but you will have the hammer down in there. So you might get a simultaneous break. Qs, SPY, and IDBM, maybe Dow Jones. The next thing we'll do is we'll take a look at the sectors. Going into the new week, we obviously have all the indexes up here. VIX, which I want to blow up on a bigger chart. You go to VIX on the weekly, here's their triangle. So if you recall, we had this nice big one in here, gets stuck in the middle. And 2-2 week all the way up, slight higher highs, and then potential 2-2 pivot machine gun back down. So if that occurs, this normally will give some help to the SPY, and you'd be coming back through previous range on the VIX. It likes to go back towards this kind of $15 to $18 range over and over, so we'll be watching that. For the short traders, if you can get a borrow on UVXY below last week's lows, you definitely want to be short that. It should be going back down here. And that would be about 30% on commons. You can trade options on there as well. That being said, let's get to the sectors. So on a sector basis, we can see the dollar, maybe it firms up. It's nowhere near changing anything though. Gold miners, nowhere near reversing. So they didn't sell these off last week. We'll see if they continue to confirm. These are some things that we've already had long. Then when we look at the market, semis, closer to the 2-2 week. Technology, closer to the hammer 2-2 week. We'll see biotechs inside week. We will see financials 3-3-3-2-2 setting up. So you got a big broadening formation in there, and we'll show that on the daily. The defense sector 3-2-2 on the week potential. Industrials potentially 3-2-2 week, although slightly weaker with the Dow Jones. Regional banks with the financials potential 3-2-2, and these are a little bit weaker with the IDBM. Then we will see all the energies, XLE, OIH, XOP inside week. That tells us to look at the energies for sure. Then the last thing down here we'll see is the materials, potentially 3-2-2 on the week. So if all those were to break, we'd have about 80% of the market reversing on a dime. That's something I'd want to be aware of. Because if that occurs, guess what they told the algorithms to do? Buy, take the offer, and do it in every sector taking last week's highs. That's something I want to know about. That being said, let's go and just take a look at the financials. We'll blow it up a little bit. So when people ask, like, how do I scan for the broadening formation, or how do I look for it? The 3 is a great way to do that. This is a 3, that's a broadening formation, and it's 3-3-3. So we draw it right to left, and it looks like that. If we go to a daily, you'll see it. High, low, then firms up closer to a weekly reversal. So that's something we want to be aware of, and we can draw it like this on a daily basis. That being said, though, we're going to pick our favorites. There's going to be a lot to go over. And let me get to the scans and we'll get started. Before I forget, we did not have XLU on there. It isn't inside week, a little closer to 2 up. And then staples, which are scenario 3 on the week, closer to expansion to the downside. But that being said, let's get started. Take a look at what we got. So let's run through them. We got XLE, XOP, OIH inside week. If SPY took last week's lows, these will be relatively strong. So when you see XLE inside week, above that, we'd like to know about it, 89.88. XOP is going to look like this. And we got some stuff I want to delete in here. But you're going to see this big broadening formation. Here's your inside week. If that works, we're going up there. We go to OIH. You're going to see this. Inside week hammer, if that works, we'd be going up there, relative strength to the indexes. That's something we want to know about. So when we look at the energies first, what we're going to see is, first of all, there's so many names that I'm not going to really go through them all, but let me sort them quickly. All right, so you're going to see HAL, which is not an inside week. Let me double check my scans here. Yeah, so looks like we got a little issue there, but CVE, you're going to see the, NYSE. So HAL inside week, bottom of the range. They've been going down for a while. CVE inside week. Oh, look at that big triangle in there. So the higher highs and the lower lows. So that could turn into something bigger. If we go to Oxy, Buffett's been a fan of this one. Market has not so far, but you'll see this inside week or coming at the bottom of the much bigger broadening formation, and see the bottom of the sub triangle in here. If that works, a little weaker from the looks of it. SU. You're seeing inside week, big broadening formations to work with in here. Something like that. So we'll be closer to a reversal. COP. This is one I like. You're going to see it's got some pivot machine gun. It's going to look like this. So inside week, pivot machine gun, all these guys. And what that can tell you is COP, weekly options. Let's see next week's options. The 100 calls closed 130. Potentially those would be $6 in the money before the end of the week. So those could be going to $6. That's a good thing to know about. And maybe it goes a lot further, right? And you could go about $20 in the money if that really works out like we'd like to see. In this case, notice it'd be closer to going green on the month. We're going to go through a ton of signals. There will be things red on the month and things closer to going green. The ones closer to going green are what we want to know about. So just be aware of that, but we're going to cover them all. If we go to DVN, you're going to see the inside week after the slight lower low and a little bit closer to green on the month. It's been not a good performer. If we go to EQT, you see green on the month inside week. So this is also going to be some relative strength in the energies here. And that tells us I can throw that to the list here. Just see XOE, COP, EQT. If we go to MPC, you see the big weekly triangle in here. Bottom of that, zoom out a bit. Bottom of the much bigger triangle. We don't have a nice upper line to draw it in here. You could draw it like this if you wanted to as well. You're going to see nonetheless, though, it's at the bottom. So can we come back through that is the question. If we go to VLO, you see another pivot machine gun above 131.12. You could be looking at the VLO 135 calls, 134 calls, 88 cents. So if this works, we go 144, those would go to 10 at 88 cents at the close here. So we can also put VLO on there. And honestly, we just see these break. I'll probably just grab a bunch of those at the beginning of the week and see what we can do. But we will then see OKE. This is a pretty high volatility name in here. You see the lower lows. You also got the sub triangle week in here like this. So that would be 3-on-2 reversal. Could be going a lot higher. You do have a sub triangle with that scenario 3 week to worry about. If we add that to the list, you're going to see we have a lot of names that are going to be coming here. OPAA, similar, a little lower volatility name for the small account guys. CCJ and the uraniums hasn't completed its weekly triangle, so a little hesitant, but would be a little bit closer to going to up next week. Here's what it looks like right now. It tells you could look at like SMR, which is another uranium name. There's your lower low. Closer to a 2-2 back up, and this one, does like to move. Also OKLO. You see they've triangled them out. Now, I think it'd be strong enough to bring her back, right? So some uranium stuff tells you URA. A little closer to a 2-2 week. You can see they didn't make the lower lows to here, which they don't have to, right? We'd prefer it though. Maybe it's an equal low. If we go to NTR, another inside week, and we're starting to get into some of the nobodies down in here. Let me sort by market cap. Let's see. WMB is probably the last one we can add here. So WMB, another inside week in the energy. So we got a lot of them. If I had to count, probably, well over 30 names in there, but those are the ones I would want to be looking at. That being said, not only are the energies there, but utilities are also an inside week. Normally just, look at the major ones. SO, which no weekly signal. Duck. It's a 3-2 up week, still going on the month, and 2 going 3/4. AEP inside week, and then Dominion D also inside week. Personally, I shy away from those. There's lower volatility. I like the stuff that moves. That can also tell you things like AT&T though. So AT&T a 3-2-2 week. We've been tracking this one since this inside week in here. So we can add that to the 2-2 weeks. T 3-2-2. Okay, that being said, that covers most of the energy stuff I wanted to talk about. Now let's talk about defense sector. Closer to 3-2-2 on the week, above this stuff, 29.95. Tells you look at defensive names, right? And that's gonna be things like GE. That is an inside week GE, and you're gonna see where you have the list here. Tells you to also look at RTX. You're gonna see the inside week RTX, and it's on the month, a little bit red, but still 2 up. Tells you can look at Boeing, which is gonna be one we're gonna add to the 2-2 list. So this one I'm interested in is you zoom out a little bit. You see this on the week, the higher highs, the lower lows. And if you've been watching our little watch list down here, yearly watch list, I did have it on here, actually removed it. But Boeing, I have some reason to believe that one might kick into gear this year. So I'm going to be looking at that off the bottom of this weekly triangle. We can draw it correctly here. You'd have the 2-2 week above that in the defense sector. Also tells you things like Lockheed Martin, which were already going up on the week. I believe that's an inside day. It might be slight 2 up. Yeah, so slight 2 up day, nothing really there. NOC, a little bit of a shooter, so not so much in those guys. So that is your defense sector. Now let's take a look at what we have in the info tech. So as far as relative strength info tech, these are just the inside weeks so far, just so you guys know. Got a lot to go through tonight. GoDaddy. You know, people are still making websites, still buying domains. Inside week, a little closer to firming up. You do have an inside month at this point, so you'd be setting it up for next month. We got Okta. That's one you might want to know about. The 3-1 momentum hammer, Okta. We got Okta, which is XLK. We go to Zscaler, 3-1 hammer. So they've been kind of chopping them up in the middle of this stuff. They're a little bit closer to try and get that triangle expansion going to the upside. Now in the week, you have a sub-triangle in here like this. So if that works, pivot machine gun these guys, maybe get going. It's going to be Doji, you see on the month. Doji, but we do go 2 up, 2 down, so slight lower lows. Maybe the triangle out can get you going. It's just, you know, been going sideways for now. We can add that to the list though, and I'll just add it as a question mark. If we go to Dell. Dell, you're going to see it would be a higher low in here, which is not what I prefer. If we go to the month, it is red and 2 down still. The quarter's still inside and down in force. So not what I prefer. APH. 2 down month, still a outside quarter. So maybe triangle out back up. I've never traded it. If we go to GLW. Not sure what they do, but here's your triangle layout. And if that works, maybe they can end up back going up there. You'll see on the month, still red, but it has hit its magnitude on the inside down. If we zoom out, it is not at all-time highs again. So you can see you got the big triangle playing out. New highs, new lows, and then they're trying to work on it. But they are short-term exhaustion if they were to reclaim this stuff. That being said, though, we can keep it on the list to see what is going on there. Outside of that, there's some semis, which we'll talk about shortly, and MPWR, which is, you know, I'm actually not sure what they do. It looks like something power systems in the tech. And then STM, which I've never heard of. So not many inside weeks in the tech. I imagine we'll have a lot of hammers there. Financials, we're going to have a few. PayPal, which has been weaker on the downside. Maybe it turns into PMG. Still closer to changing the month green, but 2-2 quarter down. So, you know, if you want to buy the dip, you can try, but no thank you. If we go to Futu in the Chiners, we didn't get to the Chiners yet. But you're going to see at this point still a slight higher high to these guys. And then poke down. So we'll be a little closer to 312 up next week with the Chiners. And that tells us also Baba, the 131. And this would be considered a measured move. They bought it 80%. This is a 122 year rev strat after, pretty much the all-time lows. You'll notice they're reclaiming this above 111.18. Potentially, we're going back up into these guys, 230 and 316. And personally, I'm under the impression they will do that. It is a green month, so unlike other things, that's full time from continuity up. So if this breaks, I want to know about it. 141.93 measured move. Maybe you go another $60 just off of that signal. So we'll be watching that, Baba, and make sure I have a star next to that. That tells you Futu ? And I believe PDD also is going to be inside week, and I know that's part of your Chiners, if I'm not mistaken. I'll put some question marks there. That being said, there's some utilities, and I'm not going to spend the time going through them. You can if you want. AEP, ES, FE, PPL, XEL, ATO, AEE, and D, and DTE are your utilities. Outside of that, there's a few consumer discretionary we can quickly take a gander at. DoorDash, you see still making higher lows, higher highs. Hasn't made all-time highs yet. You got the triangle in here, the slight higher high, and then boom, down they go. See lower lows. And then where are they going? They're going up there still, right? So all the way back through. So maybe that firms up again inside day for that next week. There's also Melly, which is a little bit weaker in these guys inside week or inside month still. So technically relative strength, just consolidating. And then CMG Chipotle. Still 2 quarter down, hasn't hit its magnitude, so that's closer to going down, but sideways. So, nothing else too interesting. Really, those energies are the most interesting on the inside week scans. Now let's take a look at what we have for 2-2s next week across the board. We know already technologies have a 2-2 setting up, semis got a 2-2 setting up, and that, SPY, QQQ, so that's kind of the big boy names. NVIDIA, it's going to be on there. So your 2-2 NVIDIA, it's going to be one of your first ones to know about. In the chips, notice it would occur with full time from continuity if that breaks. And you would have this weekly triangle or broadening formation. You get the slight poke up, pokes down, potentially all the way back up there. We'll see. If we go to the scans, oh, we got a ton of financials in here too. Oh my gosh. Well, information technologies, we've got 100 names in here. I'm going to do, to make my life a little easier, just sort by market cap. We have the big boys, Microsoft. You see some slightly lower lows in here and higher highs to these guys. There's also sub triangle like this. So you can be watching that. If we go to the month, still red. So you got to change that. 2-2s, NVIDIA, Microsoft, Amazon, and the consumer discretionary a little bit, right? Still pretty red on the month, so we'll see. Tesla. You have the hammer weak, so slightly lower lows to these guys, and hammer pivot machine gun potentially. So we will see as the week goes on. If we go to Oracle, that's a cool looking chart. You see all the lows in here. Get the reclaim of those guys. Here's your triangle, and they've liked Oracle for a long time. You got Oracle, add that to the list. TSM, slightly 2 down in green, not the strongest chip in the world. If we go to Netflix, see 2 down in green, higher lows at this point, still 3-2 month down, so just being aware of that conflict, but has an inside day to break it if they're going to try and change that. CRM, slight 2 down in green, inside day to try and change that. So we might have a lot of inside days and weeklies on the Monday open. That's something we'll be aware of, or even rev strats if these were to fail, but we'll see. Let's see. PLTR may have the 1-2-2 rev strat week with a magnitude 13% higher. And when you get something like this, it's pretty doable for PLTR, right? if we go to take a look at the options for next week, you know, let's say they close trading at 99 bucks. Well, the 91 calls, they're $1.79. They're pretty cheap. So as the week goes on in PLTR, that could be a good one to look for. And there is no daily signals there, but you'll have the 122. And we'll have it on the list. Got more chips like AMAT, which is more materials in the chips. It's like a chip material guy. See right off the bottom of the triangle down in here. So you're setting up these guys. You got some sub triangles on the way down, but 2-2-week AMAT has been higher, closer to changing that month to green in the chips. And we'll separate that out just to keep it simple. Let's see. Pan W in the tech. I believe we already talked about that. Spotify. Oh yeah, Spotify. That's a 3-2-2 setting up. And I believe Spotify might be discretionary. Yeah, communication services. Okay. Spot. See, we have a lot. If we go to ANET in the info text, you have the triangle in there, still right on the month, still an outside quarter to the downside. Intel. I know they had some interesting news, would be Gapper name with news. Closer to 2-2-week. KLAC in the chips. You can see a little stronger some other chips, making higher lows in here. Gives a relative strength. Here's a weekly triangle. And just because I'm interested, you know, what are those like 740, 750s trading at? Yeah, 740s, they're trading at $7. You know, they could go to 20 pretty easily. What about 750s? If we get to the next pivot. $4, so risk reward's not there in my opinion. If they're like $2, then it'd be more interesting. Our CX, also a little bit of higher lows in here. Compared to the rest of the chips would be a full time from continuity. We got a little bit more tech in here. Crowd, something I'd like to know about. So you can see a lot of, you know, higher, bigger cap tech names, and Crowd still $2 a month. I just like the triangles, long red and green bars. That's what we look for. So maybe they're back up here. And when we talk about this, right, if that triangle's gonna play out, maybe it takes like a month or two, right? So you can go in Crowd, say, well, how many months out can I go? So let's say we're March, January, February, March. Say we go to May, right? No, 400 calls. So what are those trading at? $11. Now, if we're correct, those go to $50, maybe 60, maybe 70. So you can do that type of stuff on a monthly basis or weekly basis, trying to swing for those guys. And the closer you go, you know, the more risk you're taking on, but definitely interesting. We'll also see snow in there for maybe a 2-2 week. You can see this one's going to be a lot redder on the month. So you go on the month, a lot redder, although you got broadening formation you're playing with, and bigger monthly broadening formation off all-time lows like this. I know they got a CEO change, at least as far as I'm aware. But if that worked, you'd be back up here. Same thing. What do those options look like? Let's go like May 16th again. Yeah, it's like 170 calls, $6. You know, those could go to three times that value. 180s would go to 15 from 4. So, you know, they don't have it too cooked in there. April expiration, the 170s are trading 375. So, yeah, those aren't too bad. Even weekly magnitude, that'd put them, you know, $10 in the money. Let's keep going though. It's the last one we're going to talk about like that, but now we're starting to get into some of the nobodies here. So that's about all I see. The last thing I can throw in there is energies. Fang. Did not see this for the XLE names, but Fang is a big energy name. So you'll see the higher highs, you'll see the lower lows, and you know, we can look out for that. Still pretty red on the month at this point. And Roblox in the tech. not the strongest, a little closer to 2-2, 3-2-2 week. And, you know, as we're going through this, you might be like, Alex, there's too many to watch. We can scan, you know, who's actually breaking in force is our question next week. Carvana could become, what, 2-2 week. Still pretty red, but coming from exhaustion risk. Long red and green bars, that's what you look for, right? Add that in there. Reddit, you got 3-2-2 week again, you know, daily inside bar to try and trigger that. So, you know, we got some really crazy stuff going on Monday. Jeez Louise. A lot of nobodies. So, you know, we could add, what? Oh gosh, we got cruise lines setting up too. It's gonna be a really fun week next week. If these all break, we're gonna have a good time. Wow, RCL setting up, CCL, nice little hammer in there, and I'm about to book a cruise for Christmas. About NCLH, and a little bit of action in there, slightly lower lows to these guys. So a lot of cruise lines, although they're pretty red, so it's not the best buy in there, but yeah, definitely a lot of stuff going on. So I'm good, you know, at this. We got XOP, defense stocks that I'm interested in as relative strength names, and then we'll see what the 2-2s and tech and semis and some discretionary turn into. As far as notes, energies for sure want to know. And then, you know, tech, semis, question mark, Reddit, daily to trigger week. Or we could say like domino trades. Reddit's in there, and you know, I'm not going to take the time to go through the rest of them that we left out, but you know, we'll have a lot of stuff to go after next week, so that's all, you know, I'm going to leave it at tonight. Besides financial sector, I cannot forget the financials. So XLF, you'll have the 3-2-2. Biggest thing is we're still pretty red on the month, but it is a scenario 3, so that's a broadening formation, so we can draw it out like so. Look like this on a monthly basis. So now above that, that's 3-2-2. What that tells us is Berk B. So Berkshire Hathaway, I'm not sure what their biggest holding is, but they are closer to the 2-2 week, which is technically financials according to Thinkorswim. Bank of America, closer to the 3-2-2 on the week. So we'll add this to the list. BAC. Then we'll have XLF in here. But Wells Fargo, closer to the 3-2-2 on the week. Got some nice broadening formation in there, and they like the banks when they like them. If we go to JP Morgan, a little bit weaker there. Morgan Stanley got closer to the 3-2-2 week. And look at these triangles in here, right? Goldman Sachs, closer to the 2-2 week. These are still going to be pretty red on the month. So you can see Goldman Sachs, although that weekly signal sets up, let's say they tick up and then start coming back the other way, we're not going to hit those, right? We'll need to see it stay up above last week's highs. But we have the hammers nonetheless, so we'll be watching. And I can also tell you things like AIG, relative strength in there. We'll put a star next to that one. Tell you things like PayPal, which is an inside week. Things like Visa, which nowhere near reversing, MasterCard nowhere near reversing, so not really payment processors. If we go to Allstate, you see Allstate's going to the highs already. So Allstate, still the RevStrat month, if you recall 2 months ago monthly video. Nice, and it's still good. If we go to Progressive, see a little closer to the 2-2 week, so we'll add that in there. And if you remember the last 2 months ago monthly vid, Progressive, yeah, right, nice winner you got there, huh? But we can add that in there. And I kind of want to go like this, just so we have them slightly separate. Progressive, and then there's another insurer that I'm forgetting. Maybe ChatGPT can do it. I guess UNH counts as an insurance company, which is inside weak, but not quite as strong. Maybe it's just AIG. Anyways, there's more we can cover here in the financials. Oh my gosh. God help us all. There's so many. Affirm. You got the week in here. Looks something along the lines of that. Pretty red on the month, but it has hit its magnitude exhaustion risk, so we can make sure to have that in there. I'll just put progressive. I'll put all states in this just to keep it similar. Affirm tells you look at upstart or upshart, as Rob used to call it. There's a up and then shart. Inside day could trigger the week, so you got some slight dominoes in there. It is, you can see, reclaiming some big levels on the left, so something you want to be aware of. If that doesn't work, then you're getting 3 to the downside. But what else do we got? Going from the top of the list. TD. Banks. APO. It's a lot of ones that normally I'm not trading myself. I know Pfizer is in there. Pfizer is in there. Just well, that's a list. And, you know, so when we're doing this and you're like, oh my gosh, there's so many, either you wait for them to break or you pick your favorites. Right? It's like Microsoft, Tesla, Oracle, PLTR, Crowd. We like trading those, right? AMAT, NVIDIA especially, we like trading that. AT&T we like, right? You know, that's what we're going to do on Monday morning. We'll talk about the breaks and whatnot, but just trying to give you guys an idea of how much stuff you got going on. Like SCHW, I'm going to put a star next to that one. That one looks pretty good. And therefore, Boeing's got a star. Energy's got a star. Just going to remove it from the defense stocks. So you see the stars. These are some things I'm personally interested in myself. AJG, meh. Yeah, okay. Well, that's going to end the video tonight. Man, it's been a long one, about 45 minutes of scanning here. But hopefully you guys enjoyed the vid. And if you're skipping to the end, here is your list. You got the inside weeks, Energy, something I want to know about, Boeing, AIG, SCHW, and, you know, BABA. Those are going to be some of my main focuses, and then we'll keep watching the rest to see what sets up. That's all I've got for you guys tonight, and I hope you guys enjoyed the scanning here. I know it's a lot, but adios. Have a good rest of your night. I'll see you guys bright and early in the morning on Tuesday if you're in stat, and maybe Monday I'll go live in the morning to spectate, or not spectate, but, you know, talk over this simultaneous break we're about to see if we can get it going. That being said, that's all I've got. Adios, and have a good rest of your night.